Hello and welcome back to Life's Biggest Questions, the channel that looks to answer exactly those. Thank you to all of you that have tuned in so far and for the continued support of our growing channel. Today we are going to be examining the ultimate question. Is God real? At Life's Biggest Questions, we mean no offense, but we do encourage conversation and debate. And above all, we encourage people to always keep questioning, even when they think they already have the answers. In this video, we are going to discuss the creation of the Earth and the wider universe, as well as life on Earth and the human condition. On top of that, we're going to be discussing religion as varying concepts. There are 4,200 religions in the world, most of which stem back to 5 wider religions. Almost all religions put God at the center of their faith. Those that don't are exceptionally interesting, but we won't be discussing them as part of this because of the nature of the title. Before we address the already problematic issue of the sheer number of belief systems in relation to our question, let us first look at what the majority of these religions agree on. Christians, Sikhs, Muslims, Jews all believe that the universe was made by a grand creator. Something that divides a lot of these religions within themselves, as well as believers and non-believers, is the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory is used by some people on both sides of the debate as an example of why God is both real and not real. The Big Bang Theory, now widely acknowledged as the most probable beginning of our universe, refers to a pinpointed beginning to our existence. We do not know what caused it, but all of a sudden the universe was born as an extremely high density and extremely high temperature pinprick that quickly expanded and expanded, large enough to cool and for atoms to form. Using Albert Einstein's theory of relativity and Edwin Hubble's microscope observation that galaxies are moving away from one another, we have been able to decipher that since the beginning of time as we know it, the Big Bang, the universe has been continuing to expand. Of course, not all religions are happy with this, as it calls into question some of their earlier beliefs outlined in various ancient scriptures, which they hold pretty dear. But for others, this is comforting because it means that the exact start point to the beginning of everything can be identified, and if there was a bang, so to speak, it must have been created by something bigger than the universe itself. Scientists have gone into further detail about the creation, suggesting the first 380,000 years of the universe were dark as it was simply too hot for light to shine. After all those years, matter cooled enough for atoms to form during what is known as the era of recombination, which, according to NASA, resulted in a transparent electrical neutral gas which caused a flash of light during the Big Bang. This is detectable today as cosmic microwave background radiation. If we forget the timescale for a moment, this sounds very familiar to the Christian ear. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Although one could argue that focusing on that sentence alone is somewhat selective. The Quran is also pretty affirmative of the Big Bang in parts. Although it is never fully mentioned, a period of existence before the Earth began is noted, with many Islamic leaders acknowledging the Big Bang as consistent with what God relayed to Muhammad. Atheists, on the other hand, see the Big Bang and similar scientific discoveries like shoestring theory and M theory as proof that there is no God. Many believers tend to regard their religious scripture highly, and many, but not all, use only words found in said scripture to back up their beliefs, rather than measurable evidence. Everything we have discovered in the last 100 years or so has shaken religion to its very core. Hubble's discovery that galaxies were hurtling apart and the ability to measure that cosmic microwave background information has provided solid evidence that the Big Bang happened, which is a blow to some religions that refuse to acknowledge this. Atheists somehow seem to think that the fact that some religions have been exposed to contain a few scientific flaws means that God is not real, but that isn't quite accurate. If we can agree that there was a Big Bang, a beginning point if you will, all of the laws on the Earth and the universe beyond tell us that something can't come from nothing. This is the second law of thermodynamics. There must have been a catalyst or trigger to the start. What or who was the catalyst? Or are we to deny every law of physics and say that all of the matter that emerged in the Big Bang simply came from nowhere? But if it did come from somewhere, then where? Was it God? Was it, like is hinted in Buddhism, the result of something that came to an end before we began, with us rising from its ashes? If it was indeed divine intervention, then who or what is the focus of that divinity? Are they God? If so, are they alone? If God is alone, then why do countless religions refer to the creator as a he when the genderization in itself causes a pretty big issue? Is God genderless, therefore living beyond the need to be defined by their own ability to reproduce? Okay, so before things get too heavy, let's just say that we have summarized one of the main arguments between believers and non-believers, a never-ending argument which stems down to the rule that you cannot create something from nothing. But if something created something else, that in turn must have had a creator. Extending back, there are two probabilities. The Big Bang either just happened or it was ignited. We simply cannot say. Let's look at life closer to home and one of the major domestic blows delivered to religious arguments for God. Religion is an issue we have come across before, with so many varying strands of belief, meaning that not all believers can be right, so to speak. An early issue with the Bible, for example, is the creation of Adam and Eve, the whole Garden of Eden exchange, and the suggestion that the God made every animal we know today in its fully developed form. A nice story, but quite a tall tale. What we now know and can now prove was that there were organisms and animals that predate human existence by millions of years. Why do religious books such as the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, and the Quran not mention dinosaurs, for example? Thousands of dinosaur bones have been found in North America, China, and Argentina. We have found bones dating back 68 million years and fossils over 2 million years old. We can even see their bones hanging in museums for ourselves. Speaking of bones and fossils, we have enough of them to all but prove evolution, a theory developed from Charles Darwin's concept of survival of the fittest and change through adaptation. We can physically see, that whales descended from land mammals. It isn't over either. Species are continuing to evolve. Humans are getting taller, and moths have literally changed colour since the Industrial Revolution. The evidence of dinosaurs picks holes in religion, as does scientific support for evolution, but what may come as a blow to religion isn't necessarily a knock to the existence of God. Many modern believers will take religious scripture with a more light-hearted approach and accept them as guidelines of how to interpret their faith. In fact, some find science to be a reaffirmation of their beliefs as the miracles of the universe and life on Earth are brought to light. Many see the perfect conditions under which the Big Bang was triggered, as well as the evolution and the ideal conditions of our Earth that allow life to flourish, as evidence of intelligent design. Indeed, many see the apparent laws of physics as further confirmation that rules have been set in biology, cosmology, and the universe as we know it. Wasn't our path to existence just all too perfect? Change a few tiny factors, for example the ideal position of Jupiter in our solar system, which attracts many asteroids away from the Earth, and it all very well could have not happened. Interestingly, celebrated 19th and 20th century scientist Albert Einstein closely followed the views of 17th century Dutch philosopher Baruch Spinoza. He believed the notion of God to be an expression of the underlying unity of the universe. Perhaps the God we speak of is the harmony of the perfect laws of physics, rather than a higher being. Is God particles and energy that make up the world we know and the rules we live by? Another strand to the God debate very much concerns the human condition. Many argue that if God were real, why would he not prevent disasters and protect innocent people? Where was God during the Boxing Day tsunamis of 2004? Where was God during the 2 world wars? Where was God when the atomic bombs were dropped? And where was he during 9/11? Where is God now, with the country of Syria beyond breaking point and ISIS enacting deplorable massacres? If God was real, why would he let people suffer in such intense and cruel ways? Those who believe strongly in religious scripture will tell you that God allows suffering because we must know suffering to know love, or that it's all part of God's plan. Others who argue for God as a force of science say, sure, there may be a rule setter, a creator behind the Big Bang, but they are so huge and so inconceivable to us that perhaps they wouldn't concern themselves with our earthly issues, way too small and insignificant for them to even see. On the flip side of murder and genocide, we have supposed miracles. Our whole existence could be considered a miracle of sorts, in that we don't yet know how to explain what happened. By all accounts, the Big Bang, evolution, all of it. It seems miraculous. Miracles can be considered both divine or spontaneous depending on your outlook. Many who feel the presence of God in their lives, who see miraculous things happen to them and their family members, will be convinced to the point of almost proof as to the existence of a guardian angel or divine power. Many who promote science over miracles will instead say that miracles are events that have explanations, we just don't know them yet. For example, Isaac Newton noted how gravity from the sun keeps planets in their orbits. What he could not explain, aka how those planets got into orbits in the first place and all rotated around the sun in the same direction, he put down to a divine miracle. He said, this most beautiful system of the sun, planets and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being. However, centuries later, Pierre Laplace was able to fill in the gaps as to the mechanics of the universe. There are, of course, still some things we cannot explain, but for some, that does not mean that there isn't an explanation. No scientist will ever claim to know all of the answers to the questions posed by the universe. However, they will actively seek to find them over time. Indeed, science is always proving and disproving itself in a constant quest for the truth. That said, while some are staunch in their belief systems, others do shift over time. The Vikings, for example, believed in a wolf god who ate the sun. That was their explanation for a solar eclipse. When they assembled to throw spears into the sky and shout war cries at the wolf, they noticed the sun once again reveal itself. Not realizing solar eclipses are temporary, they hailed themselves defenders of the earth. In a time gone by, there were many who believed the stars in the sky were chinks in the floor of heaven. We now know otherwise. So, is God real, or are we just waiting for a better explanation? Finally, I want to return to religion as a notion, and this is the crux of the God issue for many people. Why are there so many religions? How can just one group be right and so many millions more wrong? Why have so many people interpreted God in so many ways? If God supposedly spoke to some X number of people millennia years ago, why didn't he speak to many people at once with a clear defining path rather than speaking to individuals who were then supposed to just get along? He would have saved thousands of years of ambiguity. Religions, by and large, but of course not all, refer back to scripture written thousands of years ago for their guidelines on how to interpret God, and often how to interact with others. This is a big issue for many. We, in the space of the past 10 minutes, have heavily discussed how our expanding understanding of the world and universe as we know it has developed our theories on life and existence as the centuries go by. Why then would religion not seek the same understanding? Why would many blindly stick to what many others consider to be outdated information? It ought not make God any less real to them, but they may have a better understanding of their relationship to the divine. Many arguments suggest that religion, as schools of thought, were created to control people by abusing their faiths. Interestingly, when we examine the core values of religion, we see very similar themes: the need to be a good person, helping others, and loving others. But books are turning people against one another en masse. How can that be holy in any way? Knowing what we know now, isn't adhering strictly to religion an act of self-flagellation? Wouldn't God, the creator, simply want us to be good and be kind? Perhaps religion and faith should be separated because they are not the same. A person can believe in God or be open to the prospect without confining themselves to the rules of religion that are so often flawed. So how do we go about answering this question? The ultimate question. Well, first, we must remove religion from the question. It's too divisive to be even considered in the black and white matter of belief and non-belief. So, is God real? Scientific discovery has come a long way in uncovering many mysteries of our past, as well as determining some of the likely outcomes of our future. However, there are so many unanswered questions about the universe, its creation, our Earth's creation, and why the laws of physics are indeed laws. Since our inception, our progression as a human race has hinged on people constantly asking questions and striving for the answers. We are constantly in a state of proving and disproving what we already know. Is God real? I honestly do not know. If a God does exist, perhaps their existence and being is simply beyond our imagination. To unquestionably disbelieve is as blindsided as unquestionably believing. As time goes on, our knowledge of creation is becoming clearer, and perhaps one day we will know the answer one way or another. It is okay to not totally understand everything. After all, we are trying to determine the entire universe, which is something that not even the top brains in the world can do. It is not okay, however, to stop asking questions. You should not believe something because someone told you to. You should not act in a certain way because there is a book that says that that's how things are done. Be alert, be curious, consider why you believe what you do, and only then will we, as a human race, be able to continue to work towards the answer of life's biggest questions. I'm Rebecca Felgate, thank you for sticking with me throughout an epic video. Of course, long as it may have been, we will have only touched on the surface of this topic, which we could continue, like man, to debate for millennia. If you would like to continue the discussion in the comments section down below, then please do so, but please keep them friendly, respectful and informed. And I will catch you next time.